Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk English Every Day.
Hi, everyone. We're very happy you're here practicing English with us today.
I'm Anna,
And I'm Romeo.
and we are genuinely happy
To see you again,
whether you're studying English seriously.
or simply enjoying a calm moment of learning.
Welcome to our slow English conversation practice.
This is a place where English feels relaxed, supportive, and natural,
A place where you can learn English step by step,
without pressure,
without fear.
and most importantly, without giving up.
Today's lesson is not only about English,
It is also about motivation,
because many English learners experience the same feeling,
a moment when learning English becomes difficult.
maybe even frustrating.
Perhaps you have felt this before.
You start learning English with excitement.
You learn new words.
You watch videos.
You listen to conversations.
And at the beginning, everything feels exciting.
You feel progress.
You feel hopeful.
But after some time, something changes.
Maybe speaking still feels slow.
Maybe you forget words during conversations,
Maybe you understand English when listening,
but speaking feels much harder.
and sometimes a small thought appears in your mind.
A quiet but discouraging thought.
The thought says, maybe my English will never improve.
Or perhaps you think, maybe English is too difficult for me.
If you have ever felt this way,
Please remember something important.
you are not alone.
Almost every language learner feels this way at some point.
Even people who speak English fluently today,
Once struggled with the language.
they also forgot words.
They also felt shy speaking.
And they also made mistakes.
Many mistakes.
But those mistakes were not failures.
They were steps in the learning process.
Let's imagine a simple story.
A story about a student named Maya.
Maya started learning English 2 years ago.
At first, she felt very motivated.
She listened to English podcasts every day.
She watched English videos.
She even practiced speaking alone in her room.
Sometimes she repeated sentences from videos.
Sometimes she talked to herself in English.
Slowly, she learned many new words.
But after a few months, something happened.
Maya met an English speaker at a cafe.
The person asked her a simple question.
Where are you from?
Maya understood the question.
But suddenly she felt nervous.
Her mind became blank.
She forgot the words she wanted to say.
The moment felt uncomfortable.
Later that day, Maya felt discouraged.
She thought to herself, I studied English for months, but I still cannot speak well.
For a moment, Maya wanted to stop learning English.
She thought maybe English was too difficult.
But later that evening, something interesting happened.
Maya watched a video about language learning,
The speaker said something very simple.
but very powerful.
The speaker said, "Learning a language is not a race."
It is a journey.
Those words stayed in Maya's mind.
She realized something important.
Learning a language is like learning a musical instrument.
At first, everything feels difficult.
Your hands feel slow.
Your mind feels confused.
But slowly, with practice, things become easier.
Maya decided not to quit.
Instead, she continued practicing.
She listened to English every day.
Even if it was only 10 minutes,
She repeated sentences,
she practiced speaking slowly.
and little by little, her confidence grew.
Not in 1 week,
Not in 1 month,
but gradually.
step by step.
Today, Maya still makes mistakes
But she speaks with confidence.
because she understands something important.
Progress is not always fast.
But progress is still happening.
In the next part, we will explore more real conversations between English learners.
Conversations about frustration
Confidence,
and the small moments that help people keep going.
because sometimes the most important lesson in language learning is not grammar,
It is perseverance,
continuing the journey.
one conversation at a time.
Let's continue our conversation about learning English.
Sometimes the most difficult part of learning a language is not grammar.
And not vocabulary.
It is the feeling inside your mind.
The feeling that tells you to stop trying.
The feeling that says, this is too difficult.
Many learners experience this moment.
Let's imagine another small story.
This time, the story is about a student named Daniel.
Daniel started learning English when he entered university.
At first, everything felt exciting.
He listened to English songs,
He watched English movies.
and he learned many new words.
But one day, something happened in his English class.
The teacher asked the students to speak English in front of the class.
One by one, the students stood up and spoke.
Some students spoke quickly,
Some students spoke confidently.
and then it was Daniel's turn.
Daniel stood up slowly.
His heart started beating faster.
He knew the words in his mind.
But when he tried to speak,
The words did not come out easily.
he paused,
He searched for the right words.
and the classroom became very quiet.
After a few seconds, Daniel finished speaking.
But he felt embarrassed.
Later that day, Daniel told his friend something.
He said quietly, "My English is terrible."
His friend looked surprised.
"Why do you say that?"
Daniel sighed.
"Because I cannot speak like the other students,"
His friend smiled gently.
and said something very simple.
But you're learning.
Daniel looked confused.
What do you mean?
His friend replied, "Speaking slowly is still speaking."
Making mistakes is still learning.
Those words stayed in Daniel's mind.
That evening, Daniel thought about the conversation.
He realized something important.
When we compare ourselves to others,
Learning can feel very discouraging.
because everyone learns at a different speed.
Some people speak quickly.
Some people learn vocabulary faster.
Some people feel confident speaking.
But language learning is not a competition.
It is a personal journey.
The only person you should compare yourself to,
Is the person you were yesterday.
yesterday, maybe you knew 10 words.
Today, maybe you know 11.
That is progress.
Yesterday, maybe speaking felt impossible.
Today, maybe you can say a few sentences.
That is progress too.
Sometimes progress is small,
Sometimes progress is slow.
but slow progress still moves forward.
Let's imagine another everyday moment.
Two friends are studying English together.
One friend suddenly sighs and says, "English is so difficult."
The other friend nods.
Yes, sometimes it feels that way.
Then, the friend asks a simple question.
But why did you start learning English?
The first friend thinks for a moment.
Then answers, "Because I want to travel."
The second friend smiles.
Then don't stop.
Because every new word you learn,
Is one step closer to your dream.
those words remind us of something important.
Learning English is not only about studying.
It is about possibilities,
New conversations,
new opportunities.
new connections with people around the world.
And sometimes when learning feels difficult,
It helps to remember why you started.
because your reason is stronger than your frustration.
Your goal is stronger than your fear.
And every small step you take brings you closer to that goal.
In the next part, we will explore another important idea.
Why mistakes are not something to fear, but something to welcome.
Because mistakes are one of the most powerful teachers in language learning.
And every learner who becomes confident in English has made thousands of mistakes along the way. In the last part, we talked about frustration.
The feeling many learners experience when speaking feels difficult.
But now let's talk about something very important.
Mistakes.
Many learners are afraid of making mistakes in English.
They worry about grammar.
They worry about pronunciation.
And sometimes they worry about what other people might think.
Because of this fear, some learners stay silent,
Even when they know the words.
even when they understand the conversation.
But silence can slow down learning.
Let's imagine another story.
This story is about a learner named Sophia.
Sophia loved studying English.
She listened to podcasts every day.
She read short English stories.
And she practiced vocabulary often.
But there was one thing she avoided.
Speaking.
Sophia felt nervous when speaking English with other people.
She worried about making mistakes
She thought people might laugh.
or misunderstand her.
One day, Sophia joined an online English conversation group.
At first, she only listened.
Other learners spoke one by one.
Some spoke slowly.
Some made grammar mistakes.
Some searched for words while speaking.
But something surprised Sophia.
No one laughed.
No one criticized the mistakes.
Instead, everyone encouraged each other.
The group leader said something interesting.
Mistakes are welcome here.
Sophia felt curious.
Mistakes are welcome?
The leader smiled and explained.
Every mistake shows that you are trying.
And trying is the most important part of learning.
That sentence stayed in Sophia's mind.
Slowly, she began speaking.
At first, her sentences were short,
Very short.
sometimes only 3 or 4 words.
But every week, her confidence grew.
She made many mistakes.
But she also learned from those mistakes.
For example, one day she said, "Yesterday I go to the market."
The group leader gently replied, "Yesterday I went to the market."
Sophia repeated the sentence.
Yesterday I went to the market.
That small correction helped her learn,
Not through fear.
but through practice.
After a few months, Sophia noticed something surprising.
Speaking English no longer felt terrifying,
It still required effort,
but it felt possible.
because she understood something important.
Mistakes are not enemies.
They are teachers.
Every mistake shows us something new,
A new grammar pattern,
a better pronunciation.
or a clearer way to express an idea.
Let's imagine a small conversation between 2 learners.
One learner says, "I'm afraid to speak English."
The other learner replies, "Why?"
The first learner answers, "Because I make too many mistakes."
The second learner smiles and says, "That means you were learning fast."
The first learner looks confused. How?
The second learner explains, "Because people who try often make mistakes,
But people who never try,
never improve."
those words remind us of something powerful.
Speaking imperfect English is still communication,
Imperfect sentences can still carry meaning.
and every conversation builds confidence.
The goal is not perfect English,
The goal is communication
understanding others.
and expressing your thoughts.
So the next time you feel afraid of making mistakes,
Remember Sophia's story.
and remember that every confident English speaker today,
Once spoke imperfect English too,
they learned through mistakes,
through patience.
through practice.
In the next part, we will explore another challenge English learners often face,
Losing motivation.
and how small daily habits can help you keep moving forward, even on the days when learning feels difficult.
In the last part, we talked about mistakes.
And why mistakes are not something to fear.
But there is another challenge many English learners face.
Losing motivation.
Motivation can feel strong at the beginning.
When everything is new,
New words,
new expressions,
new conversations.
new conversations,
But after some time,
motivation can become weaker.
life becomes busy,
Work becomes demanding.
responsibilities grow.
And sometimes English practice slowly disappears from daily life.
Let's imagine another story.
This story is about a learner named Carlos.
Carlos started learning English because he wanted to travel,
He dreamed of visiting different countries
meeting people from different cultures.
and speaking English with confidence.
In the beginning, Carlos studied every day.
He downloaded language apps,
He listened to English podcasts.
and he practiced vocabulary before going to sleep.
But after a few months, something changed.
Work became very busy.
Carlos had many responsibilities.
Meetings,
Deadlines.
long days at the office.
Slowly, his English practice became less frequent.
One day, he realized something surprising.
He had not practiced English for almost 3 weeks.
Carlos felt disappointed.
Carlos thought to himself, maybe I am not disciplined enough.
Maybe I will never learn English.
But later that evening, Carlos spoke with a colleague.
His colleague had learned English as a second language too.
Carlos shared his frustration.
I started learning English, but now I feel stuck.
His colleague listened carefully.
Then asked a simple question. How much time were you studying every day?
Carlos replied, "Almost 1 hour."
His colleague nodded slowly.
Then said something interesting.
Maybe the problem is not your motivation.
Carlos looked curious. Then what is the problem? His colleague smiled and said, "Maybe your plan was too big."
Carlos was surprised.
Too big?
The colleague explained.
When learning a language, small habits are more powerful than big plans.
You don't need 1 hour every day.
Sometimes 10 minutes is enough.
Carlos thought about those words.
10 minutes.
That sounded possible.
The next morning, Carlos tried something different.
Instead of studying for 1 hour,
He listened to an English podcast for 10 minutes.
while drinking coffee,
The next day, he repeated the same habit.
10 minutes again,
And the next day.
another 10 minutes.
Slowly, English returned to his daily routine,
Not as a big task.
but as a small daily habit.
After a few weeks, Carlos noticed something encouraging.
His listening improved.
His vocabulary grew.
And most importantly,
He no longer felt overwhelmed.
because learning English became something simple,
Something natural.
just a small part of his day.
Let's imagine a small conversation between two learners.
One learner says, "I don't have time to study English."
The other learner replies, "How much time do you spend on your phone?"
The first learner laughs.
Probably too much.
The second learner smiles.
Then you have time.
That small conversation shows an important idea.
Learning does not always require large amounts of time.
Sometimes it only requires consistency.
Small daily effort.
Listening while commuting,
Practicing vocabulary before sleeping.
repeating sentences from podcasts.
These small habits slowly build confidence.
Like tiny drops of water filling a glass.
One drop at a time.
Warm tone.
So if you ever feel like your motivation is disappearing,
Don't worry.
you don't need to study perfectly,
You only need to continue.
even in small ways.
Because small progress is still progress.
And every day you continue learning.
You are moving closer to your goal.
In the next part, we will explore something very encouraging.
The moment when learners finally realize that their English is improving.
Sometimes slowly,
Sometimes unexpectedly.
but always through patience and practice.
In the previous part, we talked about motivation.
And how small daily habits can help you continue learning.
Even when life becomes busy,
But something very interesting often happens during the learning journey.
a moment many learners don't expect.
A moment when they suddenly realize something.
Their English is improving,
Sometimes this moment appears quietly.
almost like a small surprise.
Let's imagine another story.
This story is about a learner named Lena.
Lena had been learning English for more than a year.
She listened to English podcasts almost every day,
She watched short English videos.
and she practiced speaking with friends online.
But sometimes Lena still felt discouraged.
Because her progress felt slow.
One day, she told her friend something.
She said, "I feel like my English is still not good enough."
Her friend smiled and asked, "Why do you say that?"
Lena replied, "Because I still make mistakes."
Her friend laughed gently,
Not in a mean way.
but in a friendly way.
Then the friend said something interesting.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Even native speakers make mistakes.
Lena looked surprised.
Really?
The friend nodded. Of course.
Then the friend asked Lena another question.
Do you remember your English 1 year ago?
Lena thought for a moment.
1 year ago.
At that time, understanding English conversations was very difficult.
Movies felt too fast.
podcasts sounded confusing.
And speaking English felt almost impossible.
Now things were different.
Lena could understand many conversations,
She could watch English videos without subtitles sometimes.
and she could speak with her online friends, slowly but clearly.
Suddenly, Lena realized something important.
Her English had improved,
Not overnight,
not suddenly,
but gradually,
through small daily practice,
through patience.
through persistence.
Let's imagine another small conversation.
Two coworkers are talking in English.
One coworker is learning English.
The other coworker has been speaking English for many years.
During the conversation, the learner says something slowly,
The sentence is not perfect.
but the meaning is clear,
After the conversation, the experienced coworker smiles.
and says, "Your English is getting better."
The learner looks surprised.
Really?
Yes, the coworker replies.
Last month, you spoke much less.
Now you speak more confidently.
That moment feels encouraging,
Because sometimes we don't notice our own progress.
but others can see it,
Progress often happens quietly,
like a plant growing slowly.
day by day.
You may not notice the change immediately.
But over time, the difference becomes clear.
The same is true with language learning.
Every conversation builds experience.
Every podcast improves listening,
Every new word expands your vocabulary.
and little by little, English becomes more familiar,
More comfortable,
more natural.
gentle tone.
Sometimes learners feel they are not improving.
But the truth is,
Improvement is happening,
even when it feels slow,
even when it feels invisible.
every effort you make is building your skills,
Step by step,
word by word.
conversation by conversation.
In the next part, we will reflect on the entire journey.
And remember one very important message.
Learning English is not about perfection,
It is about persistence
continuing the journey.
and never giving up. Let's take a quiet moment to reflect on everything we talked about today.
Our lesson today was not only about English
It was also about patience,
and perseverance,
because learning a language is a journey.
not a race.
Some days feel exciting.
You learn new words.
You understand conversations.
You feel proud of your progress.
But other days can feel difficult.
Words feel hard to remember,
Sentences feel slow.
and speaking may feel uncomfortable.
This experience is normal.
Every language learner experiences it.
Even people who speak English fluently today once struggled.
They once searched for simple words,
They once made many mistakes,
and they once felt unsure about their abilities.
but they continued.
One small step at a time.
Let's imagine one more small story. A story about a learner named Amir.
Amir began learning English several years ago.
At first, everything felt confusing.
English grammar looked complicated,
Listening felt fast.
and speaking felt intimidating.
But Amir decided something important.
He decided not to quit.
Instead, he made a simple promise to himself.
Every day, he would practice a little.
Some days he listened to English podcasts,
Some days, he watched short videos.
and sometimes he simply repeated sentences aloud.
The progress was slow, very slow at first.
But Amir continued anyway.
Weeks passed,
Months passed.
and one day, something surprising happened.
Amir was traveling.
At an airport in another country.
A traveler next to him asked a simple question.
Excuse me, do you know where the gate is?
Amir understood the question immediately,
Without translating in his mind.
and he answered naturally.
The conversation lasted only a few seconds.
But for Amir, it meant something much bigger.
It was proof.
Proof that his effort was working.
Proof that his English had improved.
Not suddenly,
But gradually.
through patience and persistence.
Let's remember something very important.
Language learning is like building a bridge.
One small piece at a time.
One word.
One sentence.
One conversation.
At first, the bridge is small.
But slowly, it becomes stronger.
Until one day you realize you can cross it.
You can understand.
You can speak.
You can communicate.
And the world suddenly feels larger.
Gentle, encouraging tone.
So, if you ever feel discouraged,
Remember these simple words.
don't give up.
Every small effort matters.
Every practice session matters.
Every conversation matters.
Even every mistake matters.
Because each step is moving you forward.
Step by step.
Day by day.
Word by word.
Before we finish today, we have a small reflection for you.
Think about your English journey.
Maybe you started learning English last year.
Maybe 5 years ago.
Maybe even longer.
Ask yourself this simple question.
Is my English better today than before?
Even a small improvement is something to celebrate,
Because progress is progress.
no matter how slow it feels.
If today's conversation helped you feel more encouraged, we are very happy you joined us.
Keep practicing.
Keep listening.
Keep speaking.
And most importantly,
Keep believing in your ability to learn.
we will see you again in the next lesson.
Right here on Talk English Every Day.
Take care, keep learning, and bye-bye, everyone.